Hello. It's not every day that you're confronted with an idea that's both new and revolutionary. It's not every day you're confronted with an idea, a concept that challenges how you view yourself and your place in the universe. Well, today, I believe, is just such a day. Hello, my name is Michael Tewell, and this video is first of a three-part YouTube series based upon the book, Immortality, The Science of Forbidden Fruit. The video will describe how evolution has adapted our brains to preserve our individuality after our physical body dies. And let me just preface the lecture by this caveat. It's very scientific. I've come up with a very scientific theory, and in order to get it straight, I want to make sure I adhere to a text that I've prepared. So please excuse me if I read from it. As I said, it's highly technical, and I don't want to miss any of its components. Secondly, this is a theory, but it's the first of its kind. I don't believe anywhere that anyone has come up with a specific process of how evolution has adapted our bodies to preserve our individuality after we die. I don't think anybody's discovered this until now. Why? It will become apparent as we go forward. We begin with a question. Do you believe in the infiniteness of your consciousness? Do you? Put another way, do you believe your consciousness is eternal, lasts forever? Do you believe that? I do. And this is not an ad for a religion. No. Quite the opposite, in fact. But it doesn't surprise me that when you hear the word immortal or eternal life, your instinctive first reaction is to think of your religion. And that's how most humans have been programmed since childhood. Science, however, has progressed to the point where researchers have discovered pieces of a biological puzzle leading but to one conclusion: that evolution has adapted the human brain to preserve our individuality from our present physiological life to the next. The problem is that none of these researchers are aware that they've discovered this concept or this adaptation. They've researched here and there, but they've never been able to put the pieces together. Why? The puzzle pieces have been hidden until now within various areas of our existence and have made it almost impossible until now for scientists to uncover. This problem's been twofold. First, most scientists whose careers are built around super subspecializations have no time to devote to researching the literature outside their ultra-narrow area of study. Second, scientists like the rest of us have been to one degree or another brainwashed by the religious training of their youth. They created a box. They don't think outside the box. The box is imposed upon all of us. When we think about the afterlife, we first think about religion. That's all we think about. We don't go beyond to the next step. Science. Evolution. What if religion has it wrong? What if our immortality is hidden within us all the time? I chose to look, and this is what I found. I want to share it with you because I think it's that important. Not just for you or me, but for the human race, especially at this time in our world's history. It's time for this idea to take root and grow like a seed. It's time. Evolution has adapted the human brain to preserve our individuality even after our body dies. As a result, our individuality is transferred from the dying body to one that's living. Thus, we are immortal. It's just not the way we've thought of it. Our bodies don't last forever, but our consciousness does. Our individuality does. How? I'll explain it to you in this series. One may even say that this process, which I call Phi Alpha, is the source of the alleged existence of the human soul. No, this is not science fiction. It's based upon research from around the world. Research that concludes that this is a new field of science which requires serious study. This video summarizes the research and the theoretical model presented in the book Immortality, the Science of Forbidden Fruit, which is available in paperback and ebook from Amazon, Ingram Spark, and other major retailers. The theoretical model, named Phi Alpha, gives us a specific 6-step process of how individual immortality is believed to function as we approach death. But before we can discuss this theoretical model, we first need to understand what created Phi Alpha and why it was created. To understand this, we first need to get acquainted with 2 interrelated concepts. First, the universal law of information conservation, and second, evolution. Our universe operates by what we describe as universal laws of nature. For example, the law of energy and matter conservation. Energy and matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Energy can be transformed into matter, and matter can be transformed into energy, but their combined essence has remained the same since the beginning of the universe. And then there is the law of information conservation. Information cannot be created nor destroyed either. Information does become more complex over time. Information evolves. The universe possesses an infinite number of possible outcomes for each particle of energy and matter within it. Whether that particle is a random photon, cosmic ray, or a living being like you or I, doesn't matter. The principle is the same for all. Each potential outcome consists of an infinite number of possible steps along the way. Each step is but one bit of information, as is each step not taken. Look at it this way. At the moment of the Big Bang, all the information that was ever going to exist in the infinite history of the universe already existed. This infinite information, however, was without form, existing only as hypothetical outcomes in the state of quantum mechanical potential, a non-physicality or flux containing all the possible outcomes from all the infinite choices which might or might not occur as the universe unfolds. Each of these possible outcomes is a bit of information, which either becomes real or remains as quantum mechanical potential depending upon what actions or non-actions occur. What we humans experience as reality is the parsing out of this flux one moment at a time. The total amount of information cannot change. Therefore, only our perception of it changes. As we learn new information over time, our perception of the universe changes accordingly. Let me add one more point. As it comes to information conservation, we cannot go back in time. Information cannot become less complex. It can only become more complex. Information, therefore, is infinite, eternal, and irreversible. It cannot be destroyed or reduced in complexity ever. There are several consequences to this law. We can never unlearn what we already know. We can't become dumber. We can only become smarter. Individual IQ can never decrease. It can only increase. Now, in case you have a hard time digesting this or believing it, check out the research conducted by the father-son team of physicists from the University of Gdansk, Poland, Ryzand and Michael Horodecki. They conclude once a life form experiences or creates complex information, the structure of that changed information can no longer return to its original state. University of Munich professor Dr. Marco Roncolio has found that once information becomes coherent, as when it becomes associated with any quantum mechanical process, such information must be conserved under universal law. Now, as we will show later, our human brain is a quantum mechanical machine creating quantum mechanical processes. Simply put, the information we carry around in our minds, the memories that make up the individuals that you and I are and forever will be, they're unique, complex bits of information protected from decay, deletion, or even death. That information cannot die, only our body dies. Our consciousnesses carry on with the information we take with us into our next bodies. How does this happen? To understand the processes involved in transfer of our individuality from our dying body into a new one, we must first go over the next important component of this puzzle, evolution. Life cannot exist without the laws of matter, energy, and information conservation working together. But without an operating program which permits these laws to interface with physical reality, there can be no life. What is this operating program connecting the natural laws of the universe to physical existence? We call it evolution. Evolution, operating through its genetic code of DNA and RNA, has an operating algorithm which we have come to know as natural selection. That algorithm is very simple. If you want to survive, adapt. Adaptation equals survival. And despite the billions of years evolution has spent turning one-celled amoebas into humans, the one constant thread tying each and every life form together has been information. Beginning with one-celled amoebas and paramecium, all life on Earth has been dependent upon gathering information to survive. This isn't a coincidence. Evolution's choice of information processing as a natural selector was inevitable. The universal law of information conservation is the reason. One-celled life possessed tiny hairs called cilia, C-I-L-I-A, which they used to learn about the environment in which they lived. The cilia served as information sensors, leading them away from threats like fire and toward food and oxygen. Billions of years later, dinosaurs were given purely physical attributes such as size, speed, aggression, and group cohesion to survive. By group cohesion, I'm referring to animals hunting in packs, relying upon group strength of numbers for survival. But for all their size, aggression, and group cohesion, the dinosaurs didn't survive the asteroid. As we know, they didn't survive. Those lucky enough to survive the blast wave that encircled the planet died from starvation because all their above-ground food supply no longer existed. It was burned up. One species that did survive the asteroid 65 million years ago was tiny mammals, who avoided the heat blast created by burrowing underground. They didn't starve either. The mammals fed upon small insects and plant life they found in the soil layers. Mammals survived because they were able to process environmental information more rapidly and effectively than dinosaurs. By surviving, mammals established that information processing was more important to species survival than size, speed, aggression, or group cohesion. Evolution is all about survival. If you adapt effectively to your environment, you survive. If you survive long enough, you produce offspring and your species thrives. If not, your species becomes extinct. Evolution is a zero-sum game. Survivability is dependent upon choices. Do we run along the surface into the inferno, or do we have enough intelligence to dig our way underground and be safe? The quality or survivability of the choices we make is dependent not merely upon our ability to perceive a threat, but to reason out a way to survive it. Evolution has forced every organism to constantly adapt to ever more complex threats or risk extinction. And we see that even now in our human existence. Things are becoming more complex all the time, and we either adapt to them or we risk extinction. The choices any individual has is dependent upon the validity of the information acquired. But which choice is the better choice, and which choice is the best choice, is dependent upon more than the sensory information obtained in the present moment. The ability to distinguish the best choice from just a good choice requires the ability to compare and contrast options, to differentiate what may be merely acceptable from what is the one and only optimal choice to survive. This kind of discrete information processing requires memory and a lot of it. We need to use memories of past events to compare the choices made then and the results versus what we face in the present. Mammals have come a long way since the day the dinosaurs died. No longer are mammals merely tiny four-legged mice-like creatures. They're us. While no one knows what evolution's ultimate plan is for humanity's future, we already know that it will involve ever-increasing complexity of information processing. As our environment becomes increasingly complex, so do our cognitive capabilities. There exists a dynamic relationship between our environment and evolutionary adaptations. The environment and evolution work together as two ends of the same rubber band. When one stretches, so does the other relaxes, and it goes both ways. When the environment presents a challenge, evolution provides a means of resolving that challenge. The species which best adapts to these challenges survive and thrive. Up to now, it's been the human race. Evolution has given us humans something it has not provided to other species: a rapidly evolving four-lobe brain with a lot of memory. It consists of the parietal lobe, which processes environmental information, temperature, movement, taste, and touch; the occipital lobe, which processes visual information; the temporal lobe, integrating memories with sensory data; the frontal lobe of self-awareness, cognitive functions, decision-making, and impulse control. Just to give you some context for how evolution has impacted human cognitive development, consider that the human brain tripled in size suddenly about 1.5 million years ago. The cerebral cortex expanded faster than the rest of the brain during that time as well. As a result, the human brain is no longer organized in the same way as other mammals or even our cousins, the primates. This sudden evolution in human brain capacity is believed to be due to the human brain's need to manage increasingly complex social and interpersonal interactions and relationships. Why? I believe because these relationships are necessary to create individuality. Todd Priest of the Yorkeys Primate Research Center at Emory University has discovered more than 100 separate genetic differences between human and primate brains. He's also concluded that the human brain continues to evolve extremely rapidly. As he stated, quote, "The human brain is running hot in all sorts of ways," unquote. Obviously, evolution is driving an increase in human cognitive capacity and processing ability at an unheard of pace. It's clear that evolution is directing humanity toward unlimited cognitive and communicative capabilities, which have already enhanced the expression of individuality in each of us. Evolution appears to have determined that individuality is the new dominant human trait. Just like eye and hair color, individuality is an evolutionary process, but with differences which we'll go over later. With the rise of the humans, information processing replaced physical abilities as the most successful guarantor of species survivability. This was inevitable. Given the law of information conservation, there was no choice. As we have seen, all life evolves and revolves around information and its efficient processing. But what happens when we die? Isn't our individuality and the information contained within lost forever? No, it's not lost. It can't be lost. The law of conservation of information prevents it from being lost. As a result, evolution has adapted human physiology to obey that law and to do so to preserve our individuality when we die. Has this been proven? No, it has not. No one has ever thought of this before, to my knowledge. This video and the book upon which it's based are the first serious attempts, to my knowledge, to investigate what logic says must be true. All the puzzle pieces come together to form a specific, unambiguous picture I call Phi Alpha, the evolutionary process of individuality preservation. Phi Alpha, okay. Phi Alpha is the physiological processes evolution has adapted to preserve our individuality when our physical body dies. It's a 6-stage process. First is activation. Second, memory organization. Third, memory prioritization. Fourth, memory encoding. Fifth, memory emission. Sixth, memory reception. We'll go over each in order now. Many physiological functions lie dormant for periods of time during our lives. Adult teeth don't grow down from their storage in the gum line until ages 6 to 12. Fertility in both males and females do not occur until puberty, around the ages of 12 to 14. Certain genes are not active or expressed until after death. Phi alpha cannot be on all the time. Otherwise, its system requirements would interfere with the normal functioning of the healthy human body. Therefore, it's logical to conclude Phi alpha lies dormant during our normal lives, like a repressed gene. It must require, therefore, a specific event or stimulus to come to life. And that just makes sense. Phi alpha cannot come to life every time we catch a simple cold or break a bone. Therefore, Phi alpha must have a trigger. What's the trigger? Evolution would need to create a specific set of circumstances necessary to trigger Phi alpha, as well as a biological mechanism to monitor and control its function. For example, Phi alpha needs both an on and an off switch. The on switch is pressed when the body faces imminent death. The off switch is needed in case death is avoided. Evolution has given the human brain the perfect Phi alpha trigger. We call it the limbic system. The limbic system is a small area of organs located deep within the brain's core, near the brain stem itself. The human brain's limbic system is composed of the following. The amygdala, the cingulate gyrus, the corpus callosum, the fornix, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, the indicium griseum, the stria terminalis, and the thalamus. And there's each one. There you go. Now, the indicium griseum is this little thin band that's right in the middle here. It separates the cingulate gyrus and the corpus callosum. And I want to thank Dr. Dave R.M. Langers of the University of Nottingham and ResearchGate.net for that illustration of the limbic system structures. For a detailed description of each of these organs of the limbic system and their relationship with Phi alpha, I recommend the book Immortality, The Science of Forbidden Fruit, available at Amazon, Ingram Spark, and other major retailers. This is the end of video number 1, part 1 of the 3-part series, Immortality, The Science of Forbidden Fruit. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.